Tonight, the fourth Jum'ah of Ramadan. As Muslims around the world answer the call to prayer, Palestinians flock to Islam's third holiest site. And violent crime on the rise in Canada, including on transit, streets, and in places of worship, with no plausible explanation. Later in the show, a Ramadan reflection with Muslim Home. We talk on how to make the best of the last few days left in Ramadan.
We tend to push ourselves and lose sleep, but that doesn't mean we can't nap during the day or nap between prayers. We have to also be sure that we're eating and drinking enough to sustain our bodies.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I am Saamiyah Syed. Today is the fourth Friday prayer of the holy month of Ramadan. While Muslims around the world have participated in the Friday sermon, thousands of Palestinians also flocked to the Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. The news comes after the recent violence that erupted in Palestine after Israeli soldiers forcibly removed worshippers from the mosque. The Israeli raids on the mosque triggered rocket fire from the Gaza Strip and Lebanon, with Israel retaliating with airstrikes. For Muslims, Al-Aqsa represents the world's third holiest site. Israel occupied East Jerusalem during the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. It annexed the entire city in a 1980 move, in a move that was never recognized by the international community. The Pentagon is calling the unauthorized disclosure of classified intelligence documents a deliberate criminal act. The Defense Department spokesperson told reporters that the U.S. has stringent guidelines in place for safeguarding sensitive information. However, he says after this incident, the Pentagon has further tightened who has access to classified materials. The comments came after 21-year-old Air National Guardsman Jack Teixeira was taken into custody in Massachusetts by federal agents in connection with the ongoing investigation. The New York Times newspaper first identified Teixeira as the leader of the Discord chat group on which documents had initially been shared. Calgary Police Chief Mark Neufeld says violence on public transit and in cities has considerably increased since the COVID-19 pandemic. In a news conference, Neufeld told reporters that this is happening in all cities in Canada, including Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Toronto. Neufeld says it is difficult to know the exact cause, but the probable reason is mental health issues. Neufeld refers to it as a post-pandemic impact. His comments come after a surge in violent incidents in cities in Ontario, BC, and Alberta. In Calgary, a bus shooting 2 days ago left a man injured, followed by another bus stabbing the next day. Egypt and Turkey are inching closer to fully restoring their diplomatic ties after nearly a decade. The news comes after the Egyptian foreign minister today met his Turkish counterpart in Ankara, Turkey. This is the Egyptian official's second trip to Turkey this year. His Turkish counterpart visited Egypt in March. Speaking at a joint news conference, the Turkish official said that the two countries were working to raise diplomatic relations to the highest level. He indicated that the appointment of ambassadors may come soon. Despite the efforts to restore ties, Egypt is calling on Turkey to withdraw its forces from Syria. Please stay tuned and we will join you after a short break.
Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak. I'm here to ask you to support something which we are watching right now, Muslim Network Television. Just like PBS, NPR, or even your masjid, we depend on your donations. We broadcast Muslims, we put Muslims on air. We bring good news. We counter negative media with positive media. And here is an example. When the terrible earthquakes hit Turkey and Syria, Muslim Americans donated $100 million within 5 days. That was more than what US government gave in the same time. Getting our news out is what Muslim Network does. This Ramadan, stand for your community. Donate to Muslim Network. Do it now. Visit muslimnetworktv. Thank you so much, and assalamu alaikum.
Now, as we approach the finish line to the month of Ramadan, there's a lot of things that are going through our mind. Have we prayed enough? Have we made the most of this month and its blessings? And we almost have this urge or anxiety that we should have and could have done more. One of the resources we can consult on this very idea are the Muslim Home magazine. And today we have Sister Dahira Lynn Epper, Director of Religious Education at Sound Vision, joining us in the studio to tell us more. Welcome back to the show, Sister Dahira. And as always, it's great having you on here today.
Assalamu alaikum. Always nice to see you, Saamiyah.
Walaikum assalam, likewise. Now, Muslim Home has been quite busy over the past few weeks. There was a weekly Ramadan edition that was sent out with lots of inspiring content. Can you share more about how the Ramadan content was organized?
Sure. We usually publish once a week on Wednesdays, and we focus on one particular theme. During Ramadan, we decided to take 6 different areas that we thought would be really important to focus some attention on. They were building our knowledge, strengthening our body, enhancing our worship, keeping a peace-filled home. We had some recipes from around the world, and also we did book reviews that were focused on children's and adults' books.
Mm-hmm. So this will come out weekly, but people can still go back and read the earlier releases and find it just as applicable.
Definitely. You can visit soundvision.com/Muslim Home and get all of those past issues.
Mm-hmm. Now we are approaching the home stretch to Ramadan, so we have perhaps a week or even less left. What are some emotions do you think people are feeling at this time?
I think there's a lot of different emotions. There is fatigue for sure. There's also, as you mentioned in your intro, anxiety about whether or not we've actually made the most of these days and nights. And I'm guessing that Allah has put Laylatul Qadr in this last part of the month for that exact reason. If we have felt like we weren't doing enough, now is the time to really push very hard and try to catch all of the amazing blessings that are in store.
So how can we go about trying to navigate those anxieties, calm them down, and really focus on what's important in these last 10 days?
I think fatigue has a lot to do with that. And we have to make sure we keep both our body and our mind strong during this time. We tend to push ourselves and lose sleep, but that doesn't mean we can't nap during the day or nap between prayers. We have to also be sure that we're eating and drinking enough to sustain our bodies. We did a nice article this past week on warm-ups and stretches that you can do to make sure that those long hours of standing in Tarawih prayer are not really hard on your body. So there are lots of different things I think we can do. We have another article that was about what especially women can do when they're not fasting during the month. Sometimes, when we take that break for our menses, there's this feeling of despair that, we can't fast, we can't pray, but there's a ton of other things we can do to gain even the same rewards as a fasting, an accepted fast during the month of Ramadan. So I would suggest that everyone check that out. There are also people who fall into other categories who are ill or have chronic illnesses and can't fast. Again, Allah, the most merciful, has provided lots of opportunity for us to gain the full rewards, no matter what our circumstance.
Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, as we both mentioned, actually, something that's common, I've noticed, is that there seems to be a lot of fatigue and almost burnout during this time. It's a cycle of fasting, prayers going into the late evening, maybe even the night, and then waking up in the morning, and then going to school and work the next day. And it's a tough cycle to get through. And I think this is the time period where people start to feel it the most, as you mentioned, physically, but there's also a mental aspect to it as well. Can you comment on that? How can we keep our spirits up, per se, during these last few days?
I think concentrating on the amazing rewards we get is one area that is really important. We've done a couple of really good articles that focus on hadiths relate to Ramadan, about specific rewards that come from different types of activities, a lot of information on dua and dhikr. both of those are really big ways to capitalize on keeping your iman strong and pushing yourself even when you are fatigued. One other article that we had this past week is about the Quran. We can't forget that the month of Ramadan is the month of the Quran, and it's very important that we try to keep our relationship to the Quran and to Allah strong. This will help energize us as well.
My favorite part for the Ramadan edition for Muslim Home was Ramadan Favorites, which featured food and recipes from around the world. Can you share more about this feature?
Sure. There are some amazing writers that work for this parenting newsletter, and we wanted an opportunity for them to showcase who they are. And so in this particular year, we started this tradition last year, but in this particular cycle, we had Wendy Diaz sharing her recipe for arroz con pollo from Puerto Rico. We had Miriam Mohammed sharing her recipe for shafut salad from Yemen. We had Sister Zainab sharing her recipe for haris from the UAE. We had Sister Laura sharing her recipe for harira from Morocco. It's a wonderful selection of just favorites that are used for both suhoor and iftar from around the world. The recipes are there. If you haven't tried any of them, they're all delicious. You should take a look for sure.
Now, with the recipes and the spiritual reminders, I can see, and these Ramadan reflections went out weekly during the past month, as is usual for Muslim Home. What is some of the feedback that you have gotten from the releases?
So a lot of times the information that we're sharing is not necessarily new, although plenty of new Muslims or people who have converted recently are happening into our publications. But these are mostly reminders. And being reminded of something good, helping us enjoin good, forbid evil is really important no matter what time of the year it is. Particularly in Ramadan, it's very important as we're trying to gain the maximum rewards to strengthen our iman to get us through the rest of the year.
So Muslim Home will continue to put out these weekly releases go after Ramadan.
Yes. And in fact, we have the issue that will come out next week will be called Keeping Our Iman Strong, which is making sure we capitalize on all of these good habits that we've been fomenting during the month of Ramadan.
So Sound Vision has left quite an impact on its readers, hopefully.
Inshallah. There's reason for that. We have 35 years of experience being an education resource for Muslim families and members of families, all ages, adults and children. And so we have children's programming that's going strong. We're broadcasting 7 days a week. We have classes that we're hosting 7 days a week. We have the Muslim newsletter the Muslim Home newsletter that goes out weekly. And we also have videos, our Adam's World videos that are available 24/7 on our Adam's World app. There's so many resources that Sound Vision has put forward. We wanted to also mention that giving of anything that is important to you, your knowledge, your time, even your money is important during this month. Sound Vision would be a wonderful vehicle for your zakat or charitable giving. We are a nonprofit organization. We are zakat eligible, and many of our programs also could earn you sadaqah jariyah. That is continuous giving all the way to the Day of Judgment.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sister Dahira, and I hope you have a blessed Ramadan.
Thank you so much, Saamiyah. Eid Mubarak in advance to you and to all of your viewers.
Eid Mubarak to you as well. Thank you for watching Muslim News Canada. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or go to our website muslimnetworktv to make a donation so that we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad.